Welcome to another episode, everyone. OG Blood member 30 Pyru is accused of the 49th Street Massacre. His name is Cricket. I was locked up with him in the Los Angeles County Jail for a little while. I believe that he got the death penalty for this case. His gang was into it with a Serrano gang, and they had a vicious, violent gang war going on. Not necessarily a race war, but a gang war. A massacre transpired that he eventually was arrested for and accused of by a snitch. Always the case.
Welcome to Hood Politics. In this episode, I will be discussing the 49th Street Massacre. The facts of the case are as follows. The Low Bottoms is an area on the east side of South Central Los Angeles. The boundaries of the Low Bottoms is Washington Boulevard to the north, Slauson Avenue to the south, Main Street to the west, and Alameda Street to the east. For decades, the Low Bottoms were a predominantly black area, but in the 1990s, the demographics began to heavily change. As black people left South Central and moved to places like Lancaster, Palmdale, and the Inland Empire, Latinos began to move into South Central en masse, and no area saw a demographic change like the Low Bottoms. For years, black and Latino gangs such as the Pueblo Bishop Bloods, 38th Street, the Bloodstone Villain Bloods, the Ghetto Boys, the Four-Pack Gangster Crips, and others peacefully coexisted in the Low Bottoms. And while some still do, others have went to war, such as the Pueblo Bishops and 38th Street, and I'll touch on that in a future video. The Rolling 30s Bloodstone Pyrus and the Eastside 13 gang also claimed territory in the Low Bottoms. And although there was pre-existing tension between the neighboring gangs, the conflict would intensify on June 16, 2006, when Eastside 13 members shot and killed a man named Kion Robinson near Central Avenue. Robinson, also known as Itty Bitty, was a beloved member of the Rolling 30s Pyrus, and in the weeks following Robinson's murder, there were nightly shootings between the Rolling 30s and Eastside 13, but one incident would make headlines. On June 30th, 2006...
Yep, that's him. That's Cricket right there. Charles Ray Williams, I believe his name is, something like that. Did he say 90 shootings in a matter of weeks following the death of Itty Bitty from Rolling 30s Pyru, which is where this individual here is from. And again, he's accused of a massacre. As we can see, they had an intense gang war going on, particularly after Itty Bitty was killed in 2006. The war intensified, and many people lost their lives. That has been the case in South Central Los Angeles for some time now, with gangs going back and forth and black gangs going back and forth with Hispanic gangs. It's sort of subsiding some now, thankfully, but much work needs to be done.
A woman named Alicia Mercerone and a Rolling 30s Pyru member named Charles Ray Smith, also known as Cricket, were riding in Mercerone's red Chrysler Series. Smith told Mercerone that he heard some Eastside 13 members were living on 49th Street near Central Avenue. As Mercerone drove along the street, Smith believed that he recognized the green SUV as belonging to an Eastside 13 member. Shortly afterwards, Mercerone and Smith picked up a man named Ryan Moore, and the group drove back to 49th Street armed with AK-47s. At this time, a 10-year-old boy named David Marcial was riding bikes with his 12-year-old brother Sergio, while the boy's uncle, 22-year-old Larry Marcial, and a family friend and neighbor, 17-year-old Luis Cervantes, stood nearby. When Mercerone, Smith, and Moore returned to 49th Street, they spotted the group. Mercerone stopped the car, and Smith and Moore got out and began to open fire. David, Larry, and Luis were killed. Sergio was seriously wounded but survived. Smith and Moore got back into the car, and Mercerone sped away. Detectives arrived at the scene and began their investigation. They found that none of the victims were gang affiliated. Witnesses told investigators that two black men were the shooters, which put law enforcement on edge. During the 1990s and 2000s, racially motivated attacks between blacks and Latinos were rampant in Southern California, and the news of 3 innocent Latinos being gunned down by 2 black men made fears and intentions even worse. Initially, investigators had few leads, but a nearby security camera caught a glimpse of the suspect's vehicle on Central Avenue moments after the shooting. The video led investigators to identifying Mercerone. Shortly afterwards, Antonio Zaragoza, who was the mayor of Los Angeles at the time, announced a $105,000 reward for information leading to the killers. Mercerone was arrested on October 19, 2006, and she began cooperating with investigators. Mercerone told investigators that she was having an affair with Smith and that from time to time, she would hold drugs and guns for him. She admitted to driving Smith to numerous shootings, including...
So Smith, not Williams. Charles Ray Smith. I don't know, something like that. Charles Ray Smith, I believe, is Cricket's name. Charles Moore Smith is two of these individuals here that got caught up in this situation. They arrest her. She, of course, starts singing immediately, starts telling immediately on everyone. That's a very sad situation. What transpired there, these gang wars and many innocent people end up dying all around who have nothing to do with the war or with the gang. A case of mistaken identity, but they live in the gang-infested, deadly gang war territory. Unfortunately, they have no choice. This individual, this little boy was 10 years old, and that was his uncle that was merely 22 years old. A 10-year-old boy with an AK-47. You didn't recognize when you got up on them that this was just a child, that this was just a 10-year-old. You still opened fire and pointed the gun in that child's direction? Nah, man. All bad.
In the one on 49th Street. Mercerone also told investigators that Smith was responsible for the murder of a 27-year-old man named Benny Hinojosa. Hinojosa was taking milk home to his family when he was shot and killed as he sat in his vehicle on March 31st, 2006. Smith and Moore were arrested in April of 2007. Smith was charged with the murders of David Marcial, Larry Marcial, Luis Cervantes, Benny Hinojosa, and the attempted murder of Sergio Marcial. Moore was charged with the murders of David Marcial, Larry Marcial, Luis Cervantes, and the attempted murder of Sergio Marcial. During the trial, Mercerone was the prosecution's key witness against Smith and Moore. She admitted to driving Smith through Eastside 13 territory, where he saw the green SUV, and she admitted to picking up Moore, but she denied knowing what they intended to do until she saw Moore hand Smith the rifle while in the car. She went on to say that when the group returned to 49th Street, she locked eyes with a small boy near the parked SUV. Mercerone said that she scanned the area as the two men got out and started shooting. The man returned to the vehicle and she sped away. Mercerone also testified about the murder of Benny Hinojosa. She said on March 31st, 2006, a Rolling 30s Pyru member related to Smith's wife was shot at by a Latino in a green car. She admitted to driving Smith to Martin Luther King Boulevard later that day and witnessed him shooting to Hinojosa's car with an AK-47. Hinojosa had no gang ties and had nothing to do with the shooting of the Rolling 30s Pyru member. When Mercerone was asked why did she help Smith carry out these crimes, she replied, "Because I love him." The defense called Mercerone a deceptive killer with a strong motive to lie. The defense said Mercerone was a willing participant in the crimes and even got her car painted the day after the shooting on 49th Street. They went on to say that she's a proven liar. In a March 2008 interview with police, Mercerone promised to come clean and admitted involvement in the 49th Street shootings, but she denied involvement in any other shootings. In a later interview with police, she admitted to being the driver in 3 other drive-by shootings, including the Hinojosa murder. And even during trial, Mercerone denied and then admitted to firing a handgun in another drive-by, but she said no one was hurt during that incident. The defense also had doubts about her timeline of events just before the 49th Street shooting. Security footage taken from a local business showed Mercerone's car turning down 49th Street and then making the same turn 10 minutes later, moments before the shooting. The defense felt that Mercerone's account of driving past the SUV, picking up Moore and the weapons, and returning to 49th Street could not have happened within 10 minutes. The defense described Mercerone by saying, "This is a character who wakes up every morning and has a fistfight with the truth." The prosecution and the defense both agreed that the shooting had little to do with race and was a case of mistaken identity in the gang war. The gang expert for the case was a man named Alex Alonso. Alonso testified that the Rolling 30s continued to peacefully share territory with half a dozen other Latino gangs despite its conflict with Eastside 13. The prosecution described Smith and Moore as cold-blooded killers with no regard for human life. The prosecutor called the shooting an enormous display of cowardness. One witness reported Smith saying that if they're old enough to shoot, they're old enough to get shot. The victim's family spoke at the trial. Sergio Marcial Sr., who was the father of Sergio and David and the brother of Larry, took the stand. Marcial thought he heard fireworks until he looked out his front window. He saw one of the gunmen point the rifle directly at David and began shooting as David lay on the ground. Marcial said he ran and grabbed his shotgun, but by the time he made it outside, the gunman had fled. David loved soccer and making people laugh. Larry was an aspiring singer who had 2 young children and died trying to save his nephew. And Lewis had dreams of becoming a computer technician or a police officer. Ultimately, Alicia Mercerone was allowed to plead guilty to manslaughter in exchange for her testimony and is reported to have been sentenced to 7 years in prison. Ryan Moore was found guilty with the murders of David Marcial, Larry Marcial, and Luis Cervantes, and the attempted murder of Sergio Marcial, along with conspiracy to commit murder. Ryan Moore was sentenced to death. Charles Ray Smith was found guilty with the murders of David Marcial, Larry Marcial, Luis Cervantes, and Bani Hinojosa, and the attempted murder of Sergio Marcial, along with conspiracy to commit murder. Charles Ray Smith was sentenced to death. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Please.
Right. Both were sentenced to death. That's Big Cricket. Rolling 30s, Pyru. Dang, man. So he was convicted of 4 deletions, 4 unalivings, 4 murders. Was Big Cricket, and the other individual was convicted of 3 murders and 1 attempted and conspiracy to commit a murder. But the one individual, Charles Ray Moore, Cricket, has 4 murders, 1 of a 10-year-old boy, and was sentenced to death. And part of the tragedy, at least, is that these individuals were not even gang members, had nothing to do with the war. That's extremely sad. Individuals just walking home, or man's out there with his 10-year-old nephew doing whatever, playing ball with him, or walking up the street, going to the store to get a freaking popsicle, whatever. Hey, some grown men roll up on you with a chopper. Damn, with a chopper? And gun you down. Jeez. That's cold, man. Wow. They got the death penalty, and old girl, Marciano, whatever the hell her name is, starts singing like a bird. That's what they do. They all gonna start talking as soon as she faces it. And she ended up with 7 years. So they got the death penalty, she got 7 years. It doesn't pay. It's not worth it. You take lives. You lost your life to the death penalty. You're stained. Your reputation is stained for having unalived a child. All bad. And all for what? In the name of your gang that's not going to be there for you, not going to support you, and doesn't care a damn thing about you. You lost your mind. It's not worth it. Get out of it, people. Do better. Stay safe and stay free, people.